Hi students, good morning. This is Mrs. Girot, and as promised, I have a video for you in the Project 3 folder that is going to show you how to get going with GIMP. So you're going to just open up a browser and click www.gimp.org. So that's G-I-M-P, GIMP. All right, once you go to that website, you just click download. And I just do download GIMP directly. If you have a Mac, you would need to use this version right here. And it's going to give you the setup folder. You're going to download that. This is not installing, so I always just do mine to downloads. So I'm going to save that, and then you'll notice in the bottom corner it's saving that file, and this is going to execute the installation, but it won't execute it until once it's fully downloaded. You click upon it like blue bonnet. Give your computer permission to make changes. Yes, you want English probably, and then you're going to click install. You're going to follow all of the prompts until it is finished. There are a couple of different ways you can get your pictures into GIMP. You can go File, Open, and just go directly to your files. I save mine in Pictures. I have a digital photo folder. Okay, so GIMP uses a lot of memory, and the first thing that you want to do is you want to save this file. So just click Save As. Make sure that you're in the correct photo. I'm in my folder. I'm in my digital photo folder, the 2017-18 year. I'm in Project 2, my student submissions folder. I'm just going to remind you how to name your files. You name them with your first and last name. If you put your first name, it just makes it easier for me as your teacher when I go to announce the winners to look at your picture and go, oh, that's Rachel's picture. But I've noticed some of you are still submitting images with my name on them. Remember, I'm putting my name right now because I'm doing the work. When you're doing the work, you put your name on it to indicate that it's your work. So anyway, here's my Rachel Girot Practice GIMP folder, file, and it's going to have the extension .xcf. That means this is a GIMP file, and the only programs that are going to be able to open this file are GIMP, and I'm not sure if there are other ones that will open a .xcf file, but for sure GIMP will. If you tried to upload this file to an email hoping that somebody would be able to see this awesome cropped picture you did, guess what? No, email is not formatted to open a .xcf file. They're formatted to open up PNGs, JPEGs, TIFFs, that type of thing, but not an XCF. So don't be fooled into thinking that you can just go ahead and submit this to Facebook and people are going to be able to see it. That's not going to happen. So once you have saved that, you'll notice that the correct file name is now up here in the top corner. And first thing I notice is that the orientation on this is incorrect, which means if you submit this file to me right now, I'm going to get it in the wrong orientation, and I'm not going to change it for you. So you've got to get in here and change it yourself. The easiest way to do it is while it's still in the file, just to right click on the name of the file and rotate it. But you can rotate things in here as well. I do want to go to View, Zoom, and I'm going to fit the image in the window. If you want to learn the shortcut, it's Shift-Control-J. Now that is taking up the space of the window, and I'm going to just look at the names of some of these tools over here on my left. This is the perspective tool, that I can skew it. This is the shear tool, I can shear it. This is the scale, so if I want to change the size of this image, I can. And here's the rotate tool. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on that tool. And then it's really, really funky looking, but I'm going to just rotate it. Let's see if I can rotate it. It has angle there. I've never tried that. Well, I just grab this and you can see the angle changing. So 90 degrees. So I can just go ahead and type in 90 and hit enter. Boom. So that's a 90-degree rotation clockwise. Click on rotate. And voila. I see what's happening. I'm going to grab a hold of this move tool here, and now that I have the move tool, I can slide it down. Okay, so I need to fit the canvas to this image size. So when in doubt, right click on stuff and see what happens, right? So I'm going to go and click on image because this is something related to the image, right? And sure enough, I have all of these different options. I could duplicate that. I could transform it. Oh, look, I could have just come in here and transformed it that way. Canvas size, that will probably allow me to adjust the size of the canvas manually. But what I really want to do is I want to fit the canvas to this layer. So I'm going to click that, and now my canvas is the same size as this image. Whoops, I don't want to hit Control Z when you mess something up. I just moved that off the canvas and I wanted it back on there, so I hit Control Z. Now I am going to go to my zoom, view, zoom, fit image to window. Now I can see the whole thing. So I chose this picture as an example of cropping because the overall composition of this just does not feel balanced. We talked about the principles of design, and there's something about the fact that this cap has been cropped off, and underneath the bottom of the image we have all this foreground space and lines that are not drawing our eye into the subject, but rather leading our eye right off of the page. So we need to do some cropping on this and see if we can salvage it. So I'm going to come over here, and if you hover your cursor over, you can see the names of the tools, and the one that looks like an X-Acto knife, that is the cropping tool. So I will click on that, and I'm just going to come over here and start, you know, kind of like blurring my eyes a little bit and thinking about how do I want this composition to look. I really like this space over here for the bokeh effect, and I like the rule of thirds. So the rule of thirds is applied by aligning a subject with the guidelines and their intersecting points. So like if you have a face, you want that face right here on one of these thirds lines, placing the horizon on the top or bottom line. So if it's like a sky scene, maybe your sky's up here, your horizon line is here, and the rest of this is all what's going on in the foreground. Maybe it's a beautiful lake reflecting the mountains into it. Or if you have the horizon down here, maybe there's a spectacular cloud scene happening in the sky. You want to capture all of that and just have the landscape be minimal compared to it. Or allowing linear features in the image to flow from section to section. So maybe you want to do something radial that revolves around those third points. So this is the rule of thirds. Let me give you a couple of examples. I love Google Images. So here we are. So here's an example. Somebody has created a grid. Do you have to create a grid? No, you can visually imagine where the grid is at in your mind, right? Although some of you probably have the capability of actually putting the grid right on your LCD screen or in your viewfinder. So here's your lighthouse. This one's not perfectly lined up with the rule of thirds, you know, like the lighthouse could be right on it, but what's really cool about the way that they brought it over to the right and put it in this column and have this one down here is just like it creates more of an expansive view of the sea. Here we have the butterfly right on the thirds line and its beautiful wing right here at the intersecting points. Here's a bumblebee. Look at that, the way they've got the eye of the bumblebee right there on the thirds line. So that is how you work the rule of thirds. Let's look at some other images. Here we go. We've got the bottom of the horizon line here on the bottom third. We've got the top of the mountain on the top third, and then the sky up there. This one's pretty well aligned with the top third. And so you just look at that. Ding. So be thinking about the rule of thirds when you're shooting your pictures, because remember, if you shoot your pictures the first time correct, you have less editing to do. But at the same time, sometimes when you're shooting, you come in and crop too close and then you don't have anything to work with. So it's better to, you know, have some distance and have some stuff that's kind of in the background that you could come in and decide where exactly you want to crop it. So coming back here, I want to try to figure out how to play around with the rule of thirds with this. And I'm not sure if I want to include any of this part of the table down here. If I want to get rid of some of the top, I really want to accentuate the bokeh happening in the background. I want to accentuate that blur. And although, yes, the Sprite bottle is like so amazing, I'm going to try to figure out how to get that label in my third, on my third point. And I'm just visually imagining, okay? So yeah, just kind of play around with it. You don't necessarily have to have like the whole bottle sitting there, right? Get what's visually interesting. Get what's going to draw the viewer's eye back into that bokeh. You want that bokeh to actually play an active role in emphasizing your subject. If it's not emphasizing your subject, what was the point of blurring the background if it's just, it's really not doing anything? In this image for me, all I see is like this up in the foreground and this bottle and it just looks like someone haphazardly took the picture and didn't really take into consideration the elements and principles of design. So let's go ahead and just click on the inside. Now that we moved the handles and kind of got it where we want it, click in the middle and it crops it. And I want to see it. I'm just going to actually save real quick. It's always nice to save because GIMP uses a lot of your RAM. And if you know what that is, that's your random access memory. That's your working memory. So when it uses up all of your working memory, GIMP can start sticking and you'll click on something and it doesn't seem like anything's happening. Just click save and that'll refresh your RAM and you'll be good to go for a while. So I'm going to go view, zoom, fit my image to window, and now there's my scene. What do you think? Huge difference, right? Look at that bokeh. So pretty. So pretty. How's my rule of thirds looking? Got a thirds line here, bottles lining right up to the edge. I've got a third lines here. Got one here that line's just about lining up with. I've got one here where the tops of that, whatever those objects in the background are, they're sort of lining up with. So I've got a really nice third thing happening here. And does it not accentuate that bottle? That's so visually appealing. Some of you are shooting your cameras at a very low memory setting. So you might be saving your pictures at like the lowest quality. So you're getting a 200 kilobyte picture. And when you do that, when you come in here and try to zoom in, you don't have enough pixels filling the space. That's called resolution. Resolution refers to the number of pixels in an image. Resolution is sometimes identified by the width and height of the image, as well as the total number of pixels in the image. For example, an image that is 2048 pixels wide and 1536 pixels high would be written like that, contains 3,145,728 pixels, or 3.1 megapixels. So they get that 3.1 here, 3.1 megapixels, okay? So let's take a look at this image. So here we have an image that has 10 by 10 pixels. So if I want 10 by 10, this is a dot. So as I was saying, if you go in and try to crop an image that isn't heavily pixelated, that doesn't have a higher resolution, this is what it's going to end up looking like. It's going to start getting blurry and pixelated. That's why some of you guys who have been taking pictures and they're all blurry, it's because you don't have a high enough resolution, or you might be taking your pictures too close. Sometimes you have to back up, or you might need to hold down your shutter halfway and allow the camera to focus itself before you click all the way down. I know when I first got my DSLR and I had it on automatic setting, everything was coming out blurry, and I'm like, husband, what's going on with this camera? It's in automatic and everything is blurry. And he said, well, are you holding the shutter down halfway before and allowing it to actually focus? No. Well, you should try it. It actually works. And then here we have an image that's 20 by 20. So you've got 20 pixels vertical, 20 pixels horizontal, and then here's 30 by 30. So as you can see, the edge of the circle gets crisper and crisper. All right, now let's beef it up a notch. Here's 72 dots per inch. Our circle's looking pretty good. Now, I would imagine that this is probably print quality, because normally when you're just putting it on a screen, a computer screen, meaning I'm publishing it on Facebook, or I'm emailing it, or I'm posting it to a website, normally 72 pixels per inch is actually the perfect number of pixels so that the image is not too large that it takes forever for the viewer to download it and gets bored and leaves your page first before they ever get a chance to see it. And it's not so small that it looks like this. So I'm guessing that this is probably, they're talking about print quality. Now, if you want to print your pictures, 72 is too small because you're going to get this pixelated effect. If you're printing, you need to beef it up to 300 pixels per inch so that you can have nice crisp edges and everything is filled in. That's how many, that's 300 pixels this way and 300 pixels that way. So just remember those two things. 72 works for the computer screen and 300 works for print. 300 is overkill for the computer screen, okay? Even though I know we're on a screen and it looks like this, but they're trying to demonstrate the difference when you're printing. Okay, so here's an example of how your resolution on your phone might look. This person has their resolution set to the highest, 8 megabytes. If you have your resolution set that high, that means that you're going to be able to go into GIMP and you're going to be able to crop and get a lot of really fine detail even when you're cropping in on the smallest, tiniest thing. However, when you go to upload that to the Dropbox to me, that's going to take forever to upload, and I'm going to get really irritated because I don't have time to wait 5 minutes for your image to show up on my screen, right? So we're going to learn about image optimization in a minute here to make sure that you're submitting files that will transfer quickly. And, you know, if I were you out there in the field taking pictures, I'd probably be picking about 2.4. That is an image that's large enough that it's going to transfer pretty quickly for you on your end for all intensive purposes of uploading it to GIMP. And it's also going to give you enough quality that you can do some cropping and you're not going to lose the detail and the sharpness of it. 0.9 might even work. You could try that out. I recommend when students submit to the Dropbox that their file is less than 1 megabyte You can even decrease it further, but 1 MB is kind of a slow download on my end. If you can get it down to 500 kilobytes, which is half a meg, that's even better. That uploads super fast for me. So let me show you how to optimize an image. So now that I've got my image cropped, the other thing I wanted to show you real quick before we optimize it is I want you to start fooling around with this colors tab. You've got color balance, hue and saturation, colorizing, brightness, contrast, threshold levels. Don't be afraid to click on stuff because you can always do Control Z, Zeta, and get back to where you were before. You can actually hit it multiple times and go back multiple steps, okay? So I want you to click this time on brightness and contrast. I love brightness and contrast because it makes your image pop. It gives it the visual snap. So I think that the image is looking pretty bright already. If it were dark and you needed to see more detail, you could increase the brightness. However, you notice when you increase the brightness, you're losing your darker tones. So you also have to increase your contrast to bring in some dark tones. Ooh, bam, that looks pretty cool. What if I brought my brightness back to where it was originally and brought my contrast up from there? Can get pretty much the same effect. Maybe I want this super bright and maybe I want to wash it out a little bit like that. I don't personally care for that. I like to have all of the values. Hey, that looks pretty fun. That's groovy. So isn't this cool how you can kind of play around with things and get different effects? So whatever you do, make sure you've got a snap. Make sure that you've got contrast. So what is contrast? Contrast means that you've got pure whites, which I do have pure white right here on this Sprite bottle, and you've got pure blacks, okay? Do I have to go that crazy with it? Not necessarily, because I really did like the way that the blue hues were really pretty in there. So it just kind of depends on what you're going for. Maybe you liked it when it was softer. Maybe you want to keep the background the way it was and you're just going to cancel it. And maybe you want to make a selection around the bottle. So here's fun times. Grab your free select tool. It says select a hand-drawn region. I can hand draw. All the way around my bottle. And then whoop, all the way around my canvas. So I have to end at that little yellow circle. And to add this little space in there to my selection, shift, just know that shift is always to add. If I wanted to take away, like I got a little bit of that green bottle I didn't want, hit control. Control is to subtract and wrap that around there. Okay, and you can zoom in. This right here is the zoom tool, but I've lost my RAM, so I've got to save. Okay, now I can click on my zoom tool and come in here and I can get a little bit closer. Just nice. There. I can actually be more specific with my selecting. So I want to delete that because I don't want the green part, so I'm holding down control. And I'm just going to go in here and delete this little spot. And I want to add this part at the bottom where I accidentally didn't get all of the background, so I'm holding down shift to add. Okay. Oh, look at hit escape. When your things get funky like that, just hit escape. Okay, so control. Okay, so I can get really precise. Accidentally grabbed a grid line, so I'll start my, oh, and now I just moved it, hit Control Z. Used up all my RAM. Save. And I don't have the right tool anymore. Accidentally clicked on a different tool, so it starts acting wonky. Go over here and make sure that you actually have the tool selected. So I need my free select tool selected. It does that sometimes. Has a mind of its own. Try not to get too annoyed. That didn't work. So yeah, escape. Make sure you're on your right tool. All I'm trying to do is add this little area right here, and it doesn't want to. There we go, got it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out. So view, zoom, fit image in window, and I've got all the marching ants going around this part of my canvas, okay? So I can make any adjustments to this background in here that I want to. And so let's try it. Let's go into colors. Not a big deal. I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to try brightness and contrast and just adjust. I can adjust the contrast now and adjust the background. I could make less contrast. I could just reset that to 0 and bring it back. I can increase the lightness if I want it lighter. I can increase the darkness. Notice that there isn't a lot of contrast. It's just like doing a lot of midtones. So now there's a lot of gray midtones, and now there's a lot of super light midtones. But maybe that's the effect you're going for. I don't know. I'm just going to set it to 0. I don't really want to change the background, so I'm going to click OK or cancel. What I really want to change is this bottle, because I like my background. I am going to go to select, because this is a selection, so the selection tools are under select, and I'm going to invert my selection. So what does that mean? You guys take math, invert it. Boom. Now look where the marching ants are. Now the marching ants are going around my bottle. It inverted it. If I invert it again, it's going to have the marching ants going around the background. So now that my bottle is selected, I can go into colors, brightness, and contrast, and I can just focus on changing the bottle itself. So I'm looking for a nice bright white, some pure blacks. Okay, I'm going to click OK. And now I go, okay, well, now that I've done that, I need to adjust my background a little bit. So I'm going to go select, invert selection, and now I'm going to take my brightness and contrast tool, and I'm going to see what I can do in the background to make that look a little like it matches my bottle a little more. And stick with that one for right now. And then I'm going to try this colorize one. And colorize is really fun because it just changes the actual hue. So what's a complementary color of green? Purple. Let's see. Oh, I could make it like the color of the inside of that bottle. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. So this is where it gets fun, when you start to edit things, because you get to go really deep inside your headspace and play around and decide what you like. So saturation is increasing the intensity of that color. Oh, I like that. Lightness. Oh, look at that. I'm getting that color. Yeah, that's sweet. I'm gonna click OK. Okay, but I'm not satisfied. I want some more contrast. So I'm gonna beef up the contrast. Did change the hue just a little bit, but I like it. Since I've got so much contrast here in my bottle, I want to have a little bit of that contrast in the back of my image too. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then I'm going to select none. You don't want those marching ants anymore, right? That's your selection. So just go select none. I'll know whether or not you're paying attention because you'll submit something that'll have marching ants on it, and I'm like, no, select none. Okay, so boom, there is my awesome image. It is ready to publish. Just save first of all, okay, because you want to have your original work. And now file, export as. So we talked about optimizing your image a second ago. So I want to export my image. And depending on how things look on your end, it might already have a .jpeg at the end. If it doesn't have .jpeg at the end, then go down here where it says select file type by extension and click that plus. When you click that plus, that is going to give you, and I just want to squeeze this down so you can see the whole screen. It's not going to let me. That's going to give you all of the different file types by extensions. And so I'm going to scroll down and I can find my JPEG, which is an image. It shows me examples of JPEG extensions that are known by programs like your email, Facebook, Instagram. Any program that will show you a picture will read a JPEG. So then you're going to make sure that it should have the correct name because you'd already named it before, but just have that .jpeg extension at the end. Another way to do it is you can just go in there and go backspace, 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 and you can just type in JPG if it's not there already, and that will turn it into a JPEG. And then click export. When you click export, you are going to get this dialog box that pops up, okay? I like to move the dialog box over to an area of the screen where I can still see a piece of it, even if it accidentally ends up behind everything, because look what happens when I go to move this out of the way. Hey, where'd that little box go? Where is it? Oh, it's way in the back. Okay, so I'm going to move this someplace else on my screen. Bring my image back, because when I optimize my image, I need to be able to see what's going on with the actual image itself. I'm going to click save just to make sure that I've got enough RAM to do this. So the first thing when you are optimizing your image, and it's too bad that this doesn't say image optimization box, because then you'd all go, oh yeah, we're optimizing right now. Instead it just says export image as JPEG, and you're all like, I don't know what to put. It says 92. I don't know what to do, man. Should I do my quality? What does Mrs. Girot want? Yeah, like that's how stuff is. So make sure you're watching this video and paying attention. So the first thing you're going to do is show your preview. So when you click on that, that's why you need to have this image here, because whatever changes I make to the quality, it's going to show up here. This is going to change the resolution. This is going to change the number of pixels per inch. If I increase the quality, I'll be increasing the number of pixels per inch. If I decrease the quality, I'm decreasing the number of pixels per inch, okay? Right now at 92, it says that my file size is 897 kilobytes, right? That's really close to 1 meg. Let's see what happens when I increase it all the way to 100%. It's calculating the file size, 3.2 megabytes. Does Mrs. Girot want you submitting something that's 3 megabytes to the Dropbox? No, that's too big. That's gonna take like a whole minute to download it. I'm gonna be sitting there like going, hey, you know, I got 300 other things I need to grade right now. I'll just sit here and wait a minute for your picture, right? So this is why it's important to optimize. I'm just gonna go ahead and bring the quality down. I'm gonna try to get it down. I'm gonna look at this image though, and just kind of keep an eye on what's happening with it. So look I've got it down to 421 kilobytes, and look, it's still sharp. Got it down to 226. Is it still sharp? Well, I'm actually starting to see some pixelation. Let me show you what it looks like when I get it too low. Oh, did you see what happened there? Look at all the pixels, okay? We don't have as many pixels per inch. This is called a pixelated, grainy image. You don't want that, right? So let's go ahead and bring it up to 500. 500 is a fair size. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that big, but somewhere where you know that it's going to be nice and sharp. You know, it looks good. So it's not that big of a file. It's half a meg. That is perfect. Submit a file that's half a meg. Okay? Try not to submit anything that's over a meg. I know some of you guys will be working with larger image sizes and you'll have a hard time getting it smaller, and that's when you're going to have to actually size your image. But for now, let's just click export. Perfect. And when I open up my file, that image is going to be there. And you can upload that to an email, you can upload that to the Dropbox, you can upload that to Facebook, you can post it on your blog site, and you'll actually be able to see the image. If you try to post your .xcf file, not going to open because those programs don't recognize that extension. Okay, what if you need to size your image? Image, scale image. So if you are starting, if you're one of those students that's starting with, you know, the 9 megabyte image, you need to bring it down, okay? Your resolution is going to be huge here. Just make sure that you have this linked. So notice if I click on it, it unlinks it so that when you change the resolution of the X, it will simultaneously change the resolution of the Y. So link it. And all you have to do is come in here and type 72. Bop, hit tab, and it will automatically size the Y resolution to 72 for you and keep all of your proportions, okay? The other thing you can do is, let's say when you transfer your image, I don't know if any of you guys have ever done this, where you go and you're looking for an image on Google and then you go and try to insert it and it's like seriously so big it doesn't even fit in the screen. Well, that's because probably the resolution, right? But it might also just be the size of the image. So I like to change this to inches so that I can actually see how big in inches my image is, because I can imagine that. Well, guess what? In inches, this image is 19 inches by 29 inches. 12 inches is a foot. Is this going to fit on my computer screen? No. So I can go ahead and scale this image right now. How many inches do I need it to be to fit on my screen? Well, not very many. I'm just going to go ahead and click 8 inches. Okay, and change that to 11. It's still pretty darn big. I can still zoom in on it. I can still crop it and stuff like that. It honestly doesn't even need to be that big, but that's good. So I'm just going to go ahead and click scale. And you'll notice when I scale it that suddenly it gets really small. Like it took that image and it just made it tiny. And so you might be thinking, Mrs. Girot, I thought that was supposed to be like 8 by 11 inches. What happened to it? Well, if you come down here to the bottom, you'll notice that it says that you're viewing this image at 20% of its normal size. Ah. And I can click here. Gonna try. There we go. And if I scale it to 100%, my image is still too big at 100%, which is what, if Mrs. Girot tries to open this up on her computer, it's automatically going to open up in 100% for her. She's not going to be able to see my whole image. So I need to go in there and I need to scale my image down some more. Let's go ahead and change that to inches, and let's just scale this down to like 3 and hit tab, because these are locked. It'll automatically change the height when you hit tab. 3 by 4. Okay, let's try that. I'm going to scale that. Let's see if she can see it then. Okay, so now look, it says it's at 100%, and I am seeing the actual size of it. I can see it. It's 3 inches by 4 inches. Perfect. Okay, so that's where I need you guys to be. And when I go to File, Export As, let's go ahead and hit export and see what it already exists. Do you want to replace it? If you want to, you can, but you could keep that higher resolution image if you wanted to. The higher resolution image might be good for print. Well, it was only 72 pixels per inch, but you might be able to change that to 300 and still get a decent size image of it. So let's replace, and let's scale this to 100%. Oh, it's only 100 kilobytes. Wow, that's really tiny. That is going to file transfer so quickly. As soon as somebody clicks on my web page, boom, that image is going to pop up. So see what changing the image size can do as well. So everything works hand in hand. Otherwise, if I want to have this smaller version saved separately, I can just name this one my small version. You can name it whatever you want. And then export it so that you still have your saved JPEG that was really high quality, and then you have this version that's just ready to publish on a website. It's the size that you wanted it to be viewed at. It's perfect. Click export. Okay, so now you have two different JPEGs that you've saved of the same image. One's going to be large, one's going to be really manageable and easy to transfer. So I'm pretty sure I covered all the bases today. You're probably thinking, man, that was a really long video. But yeah, it's a necessary evil. You all needed to learn all of that. So have fun this week. Shoot your light photography and your light painting, and get in here to GIMP, play around with it, crop it, play with the saturation, get some intense colors. Have fun with that project this weekend. Crop out all the junk in the background that's just distracting. Make sure you're emphasizing your subject with your crop lines and your rule of thirds. All right, ciao.